What's up, guys? This is an issue that I see in aeroids and stuff sometimes, so I figured I'd make a video. Today I'm going to be talking about air layering. So that's a very, very, very beneficial method of rooting a plant that is otherwise growing and in a place where you don't want to chop it up. So in a situation, say you have like one of those pink princess philodendrons. Not my cup of tea, but a lot of people who are into growing variegated stuff will buy a climbing species like that, and they don't realize that they need to use something like a moss bowl, like what you can see behind me, to get that plant to actually grow to its full potential, basically. So they'll stick it on a stake, and it'll get all leggy and stuff like that, and they don't want to lose all the progress that they've made, essentially, with the plant by chopping and then waiting for that cutting to root. So what you can do is you can air layer. Air layering is essentially... you can see these roots here. This is an anthurium. There we go. This is an anthurium erasemoides, or erasemoides, however you want to say it, because the foliage looks like erasema. But basically, these are not, sufficient roots necessarily where I would be super comfortable just taking a chop right here and throwing that into some soil. I would like for those roots to develop more. And if it's a situation where you're in ambient, humidity with that pink princess philodendron or that whatever philodendron or that whatever anthurium, say your stem has gotten a little bit long and you don't have great roots. If you're in a situation where it's ambient humidity, a lot of times you won't have nice fuzzy roots that are coming off the stem like that. You'll have those like kind of burnt looking crispy nubs. And that is a root, that's an aerial root or the start of an aerial root. But it felt that low humidity and it was like, I don't know if there's anything for me here. But it is root tissue, so you can start with that and that will likely root into whatever medium you're using. But like I was saying, aerial layering or air layering is basically where you wrap soil. We're going to be using sphagnum moss around the root system. And then you wrap basically a bag or something around that soil. So it stays in place like a ball around this, like there would be soil, my fist would be covering that up. And that bag, I particularly use like Ziploc bags that I'll tape around it. It'll lock in the moisture so you don't have to worry about that just drying out like immediately. And the plant over the course of a month or so will root into that. And that way, while I have this nice big plant producing larger leaves, I can root it without having to chop it. If you were to just chop it and then root it, you're going to lose some momentum in the plant's growth. If you can root it before you chop it, you are saving a lot of time and you're reducing the amount of stress that you're putting on the plant. It's a very, very important thing a lot of people overlook, in my opinion. But basically, you would do that thing where you wrap the moss around it, and I'll show you what one looks like after you've done that. So this is an imported plant. You can see I've already kind of taken that off. But it would look something along the lines of this. The stem is very leggy, and I didn't have any roots that were really making their way down into the soil. This one's kind of just made it down. But I wanted to chop this plant. It was just really leggy, kind of funky. It was flopping over. So what I did was I took a bunch of sphagnum moss, you can see all that, and I wrapped it around the stem just below the growth point. You can see all those roots now too. This has been a plant that's been air layering for about a month or two. And then I took a cheap Ziploc bag, wrapped it around that, and used literally just, you can see Scotch tape in there to kind of seal it all up. Just literally wrap it, tape it up, and leave it. And don't let that moss dry out. Occasionally you might have to water it. But after those few months go by, you will end up with a very, very, very healthy root ball that is separate from your base cut. So now I can chop this plant as high up as I want, probably up here, and just leave this guy alone. I'll probably transplant this to soil, actually. Maybe not. I'll probably transplant it to soil, but that's not important. And then I have my own fully rooted top cut that's ready to go, and then I can propagate this and wait for a new growth point off of the base cut, or take multiple base cuts if I really wanted to. But it's just a really, really, really easy, passive method of getting a plant rooted before you chop. I see so many people, oh, it's time to chop, oh, it's time to do this. But their plant isn't in a position where that plant is ready to be chopped. That plant has no roots where you're planning on chopping it. So air layer your plants, people. That's pretty much it. At this point, you would remove all of the soil off of this very gently, I should say. Just very gently remove all these roots. take your cutting wherever you want to take your cutting, and some people will say, do your little cinnamon around the cutting and all that kind of stuff. I use super glue. I've seen people use wax. Whatever you got to do, but that's a different story, of course. And then throw it into some soil and you're good to go. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you next time.